States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good. Thank you, Brad. Thank you, everyone. We will get right to it. More personnel items, of course. We will get into that in greater detail, but I'm going to assume there's some modifications to the agenda.
If I could suggest a couple of them as soon as I get it, the agenda up on my screen.
If I did as you put
You did too. All right. All right, I'd like to add to the consent agenda a supplemental personnel report. It's dated today, August 27th, if we could. And then I would also like to add under school district business and for the policies, I would like to add a supplemental personnel report, Roman numeral 2, dated today. And then I would also like to add a short discussion of TCAT/student transportation to other school district business. I think you got something in your box today on that. I'd like to add that.
So that's items G and H.
Yes.
Very good. TCAT. So very good. Danielle, was anyone signed up to speak?
Signed up to speak.
Okay. Anyone wish to speak now that you're here? Not seeing anyone, seeing staff, everyone's really happy, it's August, okay. I'm seeing smiles, it's always good. And there's no students and there's no board responses at this point, unless the board have anything they need to say right now? No updates on elections or anything, that's fine.
Well, yeah. I went to the athletics kickoff tonight over at Caldwell Auditorium. That was great. There were, between the students and the parents, there had to be 300 or more there. So that was great to see that kicking off. And I've been following all kinds of administrators and instructors on Twitter, and they're all telling me what great time they're having with their professional development and the different sessions going on. So. Yes, there are people reading it, and I'm glad you're enjoying those sessions. And it looks like people are getting pumped up and ready for the year.
And Brad, did you know how I knew it was the fall sports assembly?
I'm assuming it wasn't on Twitter. So.
No, I read it. It was on the website, on the Twitter feed on the website. I had no idea otherwise because
I read the Twitter feed.
Because I missed the finance committee meeting last night, which I'm not a member of the committee, but I didn't even go to that. But I saw on the website that there was the fall athletics thing. Like there's some football players there. So I felt drawn, so I went. It's that time of year. I felt I should be at practice, but I can no longer do that. So it's frankly, it's a great way to find out what's happening, to check in, and there are not only random comments but actually updates on what's going on. So that is useful. Anything else?
Can't follow that one up.
Yeah, there you go. That's why. Yeah. Anyway, consent agenda.
I'll move the consent. Remember, there's a supplemental personnel report. That's
second by Seth. Any questions regarding consent? I would just point out, in your Dropbox, there is a breakdown of the tax warrants, and I assume, if anyone has any questions regarding that.
What did it finally come to?
1717 1,000. Came out a little bit higher than we thought because the assessed value, the estimate that we got from the assessor before we went to the voters, the estimate was a little high. So the final assessed value came in a little lower. Okay. Still, I think Judy, it's a 1.3.
Yeah.
So it's.
We did, I believe, assume it would be in the $17. It was going to be $17.
Right.
And some.
It's a few pennies more than we thought.
Okay. All right. So that detail is actually quite the detail in your Dropbox, and that does relate to item 3, the authorization of the 2013-14 tax warrant. We do not want to levy taxes without it being obviously recognized in the consent agenda. So that is the important thing that we do in August, is set that levy, and that will be reflective in the tax bills when they are issued in September.
For October.
For, okay. So, if there's no other questions, Sharon, Judy? Okay. If nothing else, all in favor? That's everyone, minus Sean, who was absent tonight. So we're a board of 8 tonight. Dr. Brown, I think, yes, I am coming around to you. So there you are, Dr. Brown, all ready for it.
Thank you, Ms. Haynes. I must admit I'm having a moment here as I'm reflecting on where we've been, where we've come from in 2.5 years. We're having a paperless meeting, and you and Mr. Granger are talking about Twitter.
I'm not sure I'm ready to cry.
One word about technology tools and how they can enhance the work of the district. You two did it for me, so thank you. But one, I'd like to recognize Ms. Janet Abauer, who's here, who's taken on a new role and is approved by the board tonight as assistant principal at the high school.
So Janet's new to the high school, is that?
Oh man,
sorry, maybe I'm mistaken. So Janet, what is Janet's background, Dr. Brown?
Wow. I couldn't name all the positions, but you've done just about everything at the high school. Janet, you want to talk about your experience at the high school?
Actually, I started just 20 years ago as a French and Spanish teacher at the Layman Alternative School, and I taught there for 8 years. Taught French at DeWitt for 2 years. Then came to the high school, and I've been teaching there I taught there for 6 years, and then have been administrator the last 3 years. So one of them as an associate principal, then as a master educator, and then back again as an associate principal now. So that's what it is.
All right. Thank you, Janet.
Thanks, Janet.
Yeah. One other item, I thought we would take a bit of time tonight. I know I'm guilty of always bragging about our schools and what we do and saying we're world class, we're the best in the state, or the best in the country sometimes, but when we're recognized in that way, it's important for us to highlight it. Just recently, we were recognized by the state as having one of the best schools in our state. I'm going to ask Mr. Brown and his team to help us understand how the state comes to that, but the state finally realized something we've known for a long time, that there's some outstanding educators, young people, and work happening in Bill Sherman. And we invited Dan and his team to just share a few things about the award itself, the rewards designation, and some of the things that are happening in the building to lead to such achievement. You want to come on up?
Yeah.
You start.
Okay.
So we have paper and technology.
Yeah.
That's the old and the new. I'm good.
She's not in paper, right? Well, thank you. So we were selected as a high-performing elementary, and due to information from the 2010 to 2012 school year by the New York State Department of Education. It's very, very exciting for us. I want to explain some of the methodology that basically we are, why we were selected. Closing the performance gap in ELA and in math. We closed the performance gap. Our student performance for both ELA and math was in the 20th percentile in the state. And our students in our bottom quartile, our students who are performing at a lower level, had rates of growth above the state average in both ELA and math. We also had growth in that area. Looking a little bit deeper at the data, so it's 2010, 2011, 2011, 2012, but this is performance percentile, and what you can see is not only are we being recognized as a reward school, but we're on an upward trend. We're continuing to follow the momentum there, but this is basically what the state does is they combine the ELA and the math score, and they turn it into a performance index that they call. And then they look at it for both years. And in both years, we were in the top 20% in the state. And looking even closer, this is more about the percentile. We still continue to follow the upward trend by looking at the performance index percentile rank. Basically, we're given a percentile based on our data. Again, it's combined ELA and math scores. And once again, we're in the top 20% in the state. Now, there isn't one, this is not really showing up there, but that's, there isn't one, a lot of people are asking why are we successful? And it's not one thing, but when I've talked to our staff, there's lots of different things. There's efforts, initiatives, collaborative efforts. But the best way that we can define it as a staff is looking at 3 things: the innovation that we do, the interdisciplinary learning, and the collaboration. Now, interdisciplinary learning is just us teaching in units, study, where multiple subject areas are connected to the learning. Innovation, we're a school of innovation. We're piloting many new things. And collaboration, our PLC teams, our ESPs, the community, all driving change through common goals.
Dr. Brown, can you go to the next one? Thank you so much. So I'm just going to speak a little bit more about these areas. So the interdisciplinary learning isn't just combining different curricular areas. It's really capturing what is essential to those students and teaching to that area. So you find that Josh is fascinated by birds, and you get a bird feeder, and you have the children write to the lab of ornithology, and you're collecting data about the kinds and variety of birds that are coming, and then you're talking online with other schools in different parts of the country who are considering the same kinds of things. Or Elarsumia is making all these ramps, and you think, okay, time to do a unit on inclined planes. So we take the children out back on the sleds and say, okay, now you can feel a slope, and now let's measure how far did you go when it was very steep? How far did you go when it was not so steep? And very engaged, inquiry-based learning. In terms of innovation, it seems like every teacher has their own little special interest or project. So Peggy Dolan's off doing Courage to Teach, and Allison Tredan is traveling the world to find new ways to teach about wood to kindergartners. And we have this host of retired teachers who will not leave our school. They are there full time, and Karen is there every day doing math, and Marilyn Ewing is having the children asking the lunch lady, what do you need to enjoy your job at school? And asking the children, what would you like the lunch lady to do for you to really make a peaceful and cohesive community? And even to Thelma Ridley, who is our school secretary, and she's there shelving books and just engaging with children and reading. And I guess when Dan asked me to come tonight, it really gave me pause, because I was trying to think, so what is it? You know, what is it about Bell Sherman, and what is it that we have done that brings us to this special place? And I mean, one of the really special things is Dan. We've had him for 2 years.
I didn't make it.
He did not. He did not.
Yeah, there was no coaching.
There wasn't, but it really is true, and I don't say it in a sappy way. He has really high expectations for the children, and he has really high expectations for us. And he is in the classrooms every day. He's on the playground. He is a ton of fun, and he tells us how proud he is of us, and it's very meaningful. And kudos to you, Dan, because I feel like you have built a school that allowed the idealism and the enthusiasm that brought us to teaching to thrive. And at the core of Bell Sherman is an ethos of a commitment to children, to families, and to the community. And what we expect of children, we expect of ourselves. We ask the children to ask deep questions and to be critical thinkers, and we ask the same of ourselves. Why are we teaching what we're teaching? How should we teach what we're teaching? What makes sense to teach? And we consider equity at every corner we can. And again, we expect of ourselves what we expect of our students. So we want the kids to get along well with one another, and we want them to work collaboratively as a community. And as practitioners, we are living by our PLCs, our professional learning communities. They are safe havens where we are now able to expose not only what goes well, but what doesn't go well. And I think it's that dissonant moment where growth and learning take place, where we say, it didn't go so well. What am I going to do? And it also means that I am no longer only responsible for the children in my class. There is a sense of responsibility and obligation for all the children on our PLC. Our parents share in our vision. The PTA, when it's picture day, makes sure that every child, regardless of their ability to pay, gets a photograph. And when it's the book sale, the children who have free and reduced lunch get book bucks, and they too buy books. And their fundraisers, like the 5K run or square dances, are community building events, and they have an educational component. They also have money that they've given to us to help with supplies and sort of extra activity money for our field trips for our classrooms. So in closing, I just want to say, I think we all in this room are educators, and we know there are no panaceas. There are no things that are just going to make our classrooms and our educational system tick. But I want to thank the superintendent and you, the school board, for allowing us to struggle, and for allowing us to search, and for allowing us to be innovative, and to respond to the needs of our students, and for encouraging us to go deep into curriculum instead of wide, and to be the place that so many adults and so many children call home. So thanks for letting us share with you today.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Wow.
Questions? Well, you can't. Oh, you don't know.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, Eldred has to start, and
Okay.
you shall.
You thought you were going to get away with that?
Yeah.
Remind me of your name again.
Randy Beckman, I teach first grade at Belsham.
And I think I've been in your class.
Yes, you have.
So,
In the end.
I just want to point out to the folks watching that we often have this conversation between this artificial distinction, or maybe it's real, but this distinction we have currently between compliance, which is what we heard in the first part of the presentation, right? Which is how we are resolving our relationship with someone else outside of us, who may necessarily have told us to get our act together, but that's still an external response mechanism. Randy, what you talked about, I wish I could actually talk about that all day. It's the first time we've actually heard the word child, and heard somebody sit at that table and talk about the specific nuances that teachers are doing to increase the performance in their classroom in a very long time. I mean, the ramp thing is genius. We scale out the high school course, it gets more complicated, but the action is the same. So Dr. Brown, hopefully he will admit this. I've asked him to see if he can help us all change our language this year, so we talk more about that, right? Because if we don't have that, we'll never get to that. And as adults around the table, because we get paid the big bucks, we often slip into reversing the equation ourselves. And thanks for giving him props. He's created an environment in which you can do this. But his purple tie is beautiful. I want to hear more about what you just said. So thank you.
Other questions for the folks? Brad.
You said you worked together for goals. What's the goal for this year?
We have to collaboratively, we're going to have to come up with it. So we're not, we had some ideas today in a small group, but as a campus and as a team, we're going to have to identify it together. So I don't set the goal ahead of time.
No, I understand. You said collaborative, but I was curious what the goal.
Last year was we looked at academic vocabulary. We looked at math fluency. Those were very popular. This year, I'm already hearing about vertical alignment with our ELA. That's one, and looking at the Singapore math and making sure that we're connecting with Common Core through Singapore math. Those are the two big ones that I've heard so far.
And Dan, if I could just ask about one of the tools, Bill Sherman was a pilot program for game-based learning. Was that any of the results part of that?
It's one
time. No, well, it's a tool, but timeline. Did that come after really the results?
Yeah, pretty much. So this was 2010 to 2012.
Right.
So we didn't start the pilot until January of 11, 12. So we didn't see a lot of those effects. We saw some. We definitely saw some effects, but it was basically used more as a workstation and students familiarizing themselves with it.
Right.
I have to say, I used the data pretty carefully, probably more carefully because I was through national boards and I had to really get a lot of data for that, more than I would need for my own classroom. And it was highly correlated with the need areas for those kids. So the kids who needed phonemic awareness work, now can I say it was just from that? No, because who the heck knows? I don't have I didn't not use it.
But it was one more tool that you
But
had.
it felt like a valuable tool for those children.
For our large ESOL population, we've seen tremendous growth using that, right? And Randy was one of our stars with it. I mean,
We spent a lot of time with the, it was a very safe place for children to be who are new arrivals too, because they teach in the child's native language. The only one they didn't have in my class was Korean Burmese. But it was safe, and it also felt that children could work at their level in a private way. Nobody had to know that you didn't know the letter A and that you were working on summarizing a paragraph. So there was something about this private differentiation that I liked.
yeah, it's safe. They felt safe to take risks in that environment. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything else?
Do you have enough computers?
Oh.
She's tossing a softball.
I am well endowed in my classroom. I cannot complain.
Talk about where you were when you first met. You said
Okay,
It was a Mac museum.
That's where you want. My first day, I asked Dr. Brown if it was a Mac museum. Because we had gone from, the old turquoise one to the, and there was one room. I asked where the computers were, and there was maybe 25. Half of them were working. And I said, where are the computers? Where are they? But in 2 years, we've made I'd say about 150 devices at least. So thank you. Do I want to have more computers? Always, but we're very grateful for what we have as well.
I just don't think that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah,
It's
thanks.
tremendous job.
Thank you.
Congratulations to your staff. Certainly, that's
We're excited.
tremendous job.
We'll continue the momentum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Dr. Brown.
That's it for my superintendent's report. I hope you don't mind the time, but I should just could gather again.
No, very good. And Dr. Brown, if the superintendent has nothing else to update us on, I think there's probably other updates. Perhaps we'll go right to pre-K.
Pre-K, and invite Dr. Landau and his team, I hope, to the table.
Excellent. And Matt is updating the press as we speak, which is always helpful. So Matt, on my agenda, it's a pre-K update. So, but that's probably a short title for a big subject. But
yeah, our goal tonight is to give you some updates on the innovation grants that I think were first discussed back in April, and then to talk a bit about just what's happening at the elementary level. We're not going to get into data tonight. We're planning to have a more data-specific meeting, I think maybe in the next meeting or two, where we'll go over both state testing data, but our own benchmarks as well. So just to talk about the team here, these positions were recently created this past spring and have been put into place. We have Liddy Coyle, and she's a master educator. She'll be dealing with supervising the instructional coaching program and also helping to coordinate professional development and curriculum at the elementary level. And we have Lily Talcott, and she got married on Saturday, and she was not required to be here tonight, for the record. But she is a master educator as well, and she will be partly helping to coordinate pre-K and also sharing the elementary curriculum professional development part with Liddy. So the innovation grants, we wanted to update you first on the pre-K portion of it. The board gave the direction back in April to look into funding 2 additional pre-K classes. it's been an interesting journey the last few months in trying to implement this, just in terms of we have hit some roadblocks. But we are happy to say that we are unveiling one new pre-K class for this upcoming school year. This pre-K class, this additional pre-K class, the 15th pre-K class in the district, will be held at Northeast Elementary School. It's held at Northeast for two reasons that came together beautifully a few weeks ago. One is they, as a school, had kind of the longest wait list of any of the schools in terms of people who've applied to pre-K. And the other is that they had an empty classroom. And so their principal, Jeff Tomasi, contacted me about having this space, and we were able to do it. The second class is going to be slower to come together, and so I'll just provide you with a brief update about our thoughts for this second class. The kindergarten, although we'll have, obviously our final enrollment data after the school year starts, this upcoming kindergarten group has been sort of hard to predict and slightly large in some of the schools, and so us trying to find an additional space has been a little bit tricky. So I started to see that happening back in the spring, and so we started to look at partnering with a community agency to have a pre-K class, not in an ICSD school, but in a child care center in the district. So our thinking behind this is that it's our teacher, our employees, but in a collaborative way with the community agency. And so the agency that we have been having good conversations with has been the downtown Ithaca Child Care Center. It's formerly the Drop-In Center. And so they do have a space that's underutilized in their building. So we created a design team around that, both with people from their organization. Their board is behind that, and so hopefully later this school year we're coming to you with a much stronger proposal for that. We found out kind of at the last minute that there were several regulatory agencies that we needed to get clearance on at the New York state level, and whereas we thought it may just be one, it turned out to be more than one. And so in a way it's good because it gives us more time to push the innovation part of it. But we think, as the board has expressed a lot of interest in expanding pre-K, this may be a direction we want to go in just because of space issues. Could be an advantage to doing it this way as opposed to trying to add portable, at least the district where I came from, we called them portable classrooms, but classrooms that are outside of the regular school.
Would we start mid-year, or would we wait?
I think the thinking right now is to start for next year, for next school year. So we have, in this whole process, there's been some questions, both obviously directed at us, but also to some board members, just about how the application process works for pre-K. And so we decided to put some key numbers, and we'll do some explaining of what these numbers mean. And also with our new website rolling out, I think in mid-September, we'll try to use that new website as a platform to explain this process better. So we now have 15 classes. We had 14, and this innovation grant is giving us a 15. Right now we have 221 students enrolled in pre-K. That number will go up a little bit. We still have some openings in our special class integrated services.
Hey Matt, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Is our typical cohort of students in the 400, 450 range?
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't tell you like an exact average, but yeah, it's there. So to get to that number a little bit, this year we had 320 applicants for pre-K. We have 96 income eligible students, and Lily was going to explain a little bit about how income eligibility works because it can be a little tricky.
Right, so we get the poverty guidelines every year, and they're updated each year. So we have guidelines that are set at 100% of the poverty line, 130% of the poverty income cutoff line, so that's like 1.3% of the poverty income level, and then 185%. So this year what we were able to do was accept every student who applied who was at 185% of the poverty line and below.
So just to give you an exact example of what that means, a family of 4, and that's including adults in the family, a family of 4 at what this 185% makes $43,568 in a year. In the past, we have not always been able to serve
Yeah.
kids all the way up to that level, and this year we met that goal easily. And so that was something we committed to. And Jim Ellis has been really helpful with transportation in terms of if one school is filled up, he will work on providing transportation so a child who meets that criteria will get served in one of our schools. The 38 students, we have 5 classes that are funded through pre-K special education. 1 class is at Caroline, 2 at South Hill, and 2 at BJN. And those students also have those classes also have regular education students in them, but we have 38 students who have significant enough IEPs that they qualify for those classes, and they are spread between those 5 schools. So this is the part where so kids who qualify for this special class and kids who are income eligible, those are kind of like automatic enrollments into the program. So if we take those off, we still, to meet that 221 students who are now enrolled, we accepted an additional 87 students. And we did that 87 students through a lottery. And so we do a lottery, that's UPK is part of the funding for that. ICSD funds a significant portion as well, but UPK money is state money. And their guidelines are for a majority of that to use in a lottery type way. And so we hold 2 lotteries. We have one in June. And then we don't give out all of our slots in June, and that does create some frustration with folks. But the reason why we don't give them all in June is because we have a lot of our low-income families registering all throughout the summer. In fact, we're predicting that we will probably have kids registering all the way up until the beginning of the school year, and also obviously once the school year begins. So we always hold back a few slots for those families.
Right.
But this year, because of this additional class and the hard work of the pre-K staff, we were able to enroll 87 students through the lottery, which is a higher number than normal, and that acceptance rate is 46%. So if you're a family that you're not income eligible and your child doesn't qualify for the special class, right now, or at least this year, you had a 40. The odds were better this year. So that lottery acceptance rate increased by about 10% from last year, and like I mentioned before, we were able to target and enroll every single income eligible child this year. That is due to the hard work of Lily, pre-K staff, and we have family workers who are doing a lot of recruiting families out in the field. We also collaborate with Tompkins Community Action in terms of they're our Head Start grantee, and so they also help identify qualified families. Any questions about that part? Yeah.
I think I heard you say that the lottery part was a requirement to get funding.
It's part of the guidelines for UPK. So universal pre-K funding is from the state. And so their guidelines, I guess, are for that to be a lottery. It's meant to help seed universal pre-K. It obviously doesn't fund it fully because we have a long way to go to do that. So they want everyone to have some sort of chance at being able to get a slot.
And I only asked this. It appears that the benefits, the way it's structured, the benefits of pre-K may be most effective when you deal with the income eligible group and the groups receiving integrated services. Does the lottery not take any of that into account, or and should our selection process, if whatever that number you said, the 43, if you're at 45 and you're $1,200 over the 185 poverty limit, should our selection process affect the families and kids who are at $1,000 over the limit, as opposed to just would that make sense, or is there other reason for
we went a little bit above the 185% this year. The additional class gave us a little breathing room to do that, and so we were actually able to bend that a little bit and bring in families that are even beyond the 185%, up into the not to get too into the weeds, but into like the 200s in terms of where they are in the income scale. So when we had extra slots and we felt like this lottery was probably, honestly, this is probably the best lottery in terms of pre-K in the entire state of New York for people who don't qualify for income or special education. So we were able to go beyond the 185%. So we don't just cut everybody off. We kind of bent that a little bit and brought families right around that.
Not a hard stop, a hard number.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah. So that's a great question. I think the other thing that points to is, should we be looking at things more than just income? And you know, I've been an educator in districts where they do look at things beyond income, and that's something that Lily and I will take a look at. Lily, you know, came on board kind of after a lot of this enrollment part took place, and so there is probably a more nuanced way. I've experienced it where you look at other factors that also would cause a child to benefit from pre-K more than another. So we're open to looking into that, and we'll do some research on that this school year.
And the target for that next class, the 16th class, is it merely to
get us over 50%?
Increase the acceptance rate, or is it to more address what you just stated, those children that could benefit that may not meet up?
Yeah, we will be sure to broaden the income guidelines up even further. And to, again, if we do the enrollment process where we take other factors into account, it may create even a wider pool of like automatic enrollees. We just honestly haven't had the staffing to really do that in a thoughtful way. It takes a lot of training and background to be able to interview families and sort of assess that kind of thing beyond just what their income is, and that's basically what we've had the capacity to do right now. So that would be the goal. To expand that, but we reviewed it just the other day. We feel that we've done a really nice job of going past the 185% and getting a lot of families that really, in fact, we feel like we've really targeted all the families that need this in an income way. And you know, people may disagree with us about where exactly that cutoff, whether they feel like they should qualify. But we've worked hard at getting as many kids in as we can. But yeah, the 16th class will hopefully expand that.
Eldred and Brad.
Could you educate us a little bit, Matt, about the transportation issues you alluded to earlier? Especially in the rural areas, we always hear that.
Sure.
Transportation is a death knell of rural poor people participating.
What can happen is, in years past, we used to do it entirely school-based. Like each school had their own waiting list, and each school kind of had their own lottery, so to speak. Not that the school is running it, but that's the way the sort of pre-K coordination happened. And so there was the chance of kids who were income eligible in a particular school district not getting into pre-K because there were so many other kids who were also income eligible. And so this year, we meaning the entire pre-K staff, identified that as something we wanted to target and overcome. And so we talked to Jim Ellis about that probably back in April. And Jim is by far the most flexible transportation director I've ever worked with in my career. And he just said, as soon as you have the names, I want these kids in pre-K, I'm going to make it happen. It ended up that we didn't have a large number of these kids to do, but I think it's between 5 and 10, and Jim is working on routing them so they get transportation to a different school if they don't have a slot in the school district that they live in. So it's in a way, it's sort of like open enrollment for pre-K. I mean, not really, but it's kind of.
Okay.
What's the?
I'm sorry.
But Jim has been great in terms of making sure kids who need to be in pre-K that transportation is not a barrier.
Go ahead, Brad.
So when I hear Ernie Duncan or Dr. King talk about universal pre-K, what do they mean? Do they mean the income eligible and the service eligible only? Or do they mean the 54% that didn't get accepted? Or is it so totally unclear and just rhetoric on their part?
I won't answer the first part of that question, but I'm going to sidebar and just say this. When I've been talking to some state officials just about some reviews of Ithaca and wanting feedback, one of my questions to someone in the state office was, well, what's another district that we can learn from and who does pre-K like us? Like, you know, there's got to be somewhere. And they immediately answered me, they shook their heads and said, no one does as much as Ithaca City School District in the entire state. And so I think that's the message. I want to both thank the board for that, because you probably don't receive that thanks very often, but even though sometimes you'll get the emails from people upset because their child doesn't get into pre-K, we offer more slots from, this was anecdotally told to me, not in writing, than probably any other school district in the state.
So we don't really know what they mean by
We don't know what they mean, but you as a school board have said that you want to keep increasing the number of students who receive pre-K, and so we're going after it. And like I said, you know, Dr. Brown talks about year-round budgeting. We'll start talking about this idea of community-based partnerships where we can have our teachers in community sites, you know, hopefully get parents interested in that, and that could be a way to increase pre-K too.
But Brad, we do have local control of the
Oh, no, I
public
understand.
schools.
I was just,
So
you know, people read.
that's why we do.
So there's plenty of people who, you know, read the papers and hear the things, and they hear the politicians spout off about universal pre-K. What do they mean?
Just to do this.
Right.
Just to do this, Ithaca City School District, we were going over the budget numbers and we couldn't quite tease out, but Ithaca City School District contributes a rather large amount to the overall pre-K budget to make all this happen. Most school districts just use the money that comes in, and that's why most school districts do half day. They just do it with a small number of children. So we cast a very wide net here.
Exactly. If there's no state dollars, it does not happen for those districts. Right.
And Matt and Dr. Brown, I just want to make sure that I think we all like little cute kids in pre-K, but this is an educationally sound practice. Is that, I mean, you believe that 100%? Is that where we are?
Yes. Okay. Well, Dan Bryman talked about vocabulary development, and that was one of their focuses at Bell Sherman. One of the best ways for vocabulary development to happen in a school setting is start school earlier. Research study after study says that, and that's just one aspect, social emotional development. I mean, another conversation for the pre-K staff to have, and maybe to have with the board, is 3-year-old classes at some point. You know, not trying to bite off more than we can chew right now, but even starting earlier could give us an advantage too. So yeah.
And Matt, and just to clarify, I mean, we have heard talk of 3-year-olds being included. These are just 4-year-olds. Are there some 3-year-olds within this? Some they may have IEPs, and so they.
Yeah, there are. Yes, there are. I think less, like 5 or less 3-year-olds for different unique reasons that are included.
But certainly vast majority are 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that there's, when it says lottery, that we're sort of looking at rural and urban and getting equal, pretty much, amounts to that. So we have approximately 90 kids waiting. Yep.
Yeah.
6 classes.
6 classes, I already figured that out.
Wait,
and we're going to go down 1, so that leaves 5 classes.
I know where the goalpost is.
In terms of the rural or people having an equal shot, I think transportation and the thing I explained before about sometimes a school would run out of slots and we would, this was years past, we would just say, sorry, there's no more slots at Enfield. So this year our goal was, if that happened at a school, whether it was Caroline, Enfield, BGM, you know, any of our schools, we were going to go to those parents if they, you know, qualified in terms of the income part and say, hey, we have a bus that can take you to Ball Creek or wherever. And so that we've only had to do that in a handful of instances so far.
And we've had no turn downs. No.
We've had in terms of eligibility, we've not had to turn anyone away. Yeah.
Jay, did you?
Yeah, a couple quick questions. How long is the school day now for our preschool kids?
It is on Monday through Thursday. It's the same school day as the other elementary students. On Friday, they go till 10:30. The big reason for that right now is the pre-K students do not go to art, music, PE. Those teachers don't have their prep period, which is in their contract. So Friday, they kind of get all 5 preps all in one day. We're actually working with the staff, and a goal for this year for the 2014-15 school years to get pre-K students going to, I call them specialist classes, but art, music, PE, and having a regular school day for pre-K 5 days a week. But that will be a goal to implement for the next school year. We wanted to do that in a way that was successful, and we didn't want to throw that together.
The innovation grant, roughly how much was that, and does it run out, and what's going to happen?
It's our money.
That was our money?
It's our money.
How much did we allocate?
It was just the cost for staff, and we were buying some furniture. There is some furniture we've identified that we can use already, so it's pretty minimal. And if we were doing the community site-based thing, obviously this would go through like the finance committee, but it was a kind of a minimal fee that we were going to do with a community organization to use the space. So this is a pretty low cost. There's not a lot of cost going in except for the staffing.
So all of this is great and wonderful, and so in budget analysis, how much more is this year going to be than last year?
I mean, I'm giving you a ballpark bit about 80,000 more.
Yeah, that's all. Ballpark was fine. One class.
I mean, that's based on just like, you know, the average teacher cost that is used in the budgetary, you know, sense.
Are we doing the, what we wanted to do was assistant teacher rather than 2 aides?
That's a great question too. So we are actually looking at both options right now. Lily and I, because this has happened on the last couple of weeks, are right now working on hiring the teacher for this class. Rest assured, we have a great applicant pool, so we're actually going through that just a couple of hours ago, and we'll be interviewing at the end of this week. So we're going to look at both options. One is a teacher assistant, which is kind of a higher level, or 2 aides. The reason why we're looking at both is if we go the route of a teacher assistant, we want it to work. And so we want someone really good to take that and really be like a powerful duo. If we don't feel like that person is in the pool, we don't want to set up a potential innovation for failure because we don't have the right people doing it. So the pools are looking pretty good, so we can update you on that as we're working on the teacher first. So we're actually working on all this simultaneously. But we don't have it figured out yet.
We, to Elder's point, we try to keep the conversation regarding the children, but I do think perhaps we just could clarify to Jay's question. On the screen, it does say through the innovation grant. For many people, a grant would denote outside resources coming in that we get grants from, Fed, state, private. But innovation grant is internal. I mean, I think perhaps a quick explanation.
If we use funds that were additional funds after we put the budget together initially last year, state funds. So we have about $695,000 total dollars that we distributed, some fund balance, some to the model classroom project, some for the elementary world language study.
Some tax reductions.
Tax reduction, we brought the tax levy down, I believe, 2%. Early college high school, early college high school program. This is one of those innovations that we were looking for.
Right, exactly. So that's, I was trying to remember where it all came from. So I appreciate the update. It's part of that year-round budgeting thing. We always have to remind ourselves, what did we do? And so that's where that funding came from, was our final state aid run that the state was able to give us. So I appreciate the update. Good.
So, and Brad mentioned it about the governor's office talking about funding pre-K. And so in terms of pre-K funding, we as a district are providing more funding that comes from our local tax base. Do you know if the state's dollars have increased or decreased or flat?
They've remained flat for the past at least 3 years, having just filled out our universal pre-kindergarten application.
Governor and Commissioner King talk. They talk. They don't deliver.
I thought that they were fun. I thought there were numbers. Apparently I'm naive.
Nothing.
So originally, from what I understand, universal pre-kindergarten was started to eventually become universal.
Universal.
And it adopt, and the funding has remained pretty
Flat. Yeah, you and I have the same definition of universal. We thought they meant all kids. They didn't. Interesting.
The federal money, we do get Head Start money too.
Right.
That funds 58 of these slots, and that, with all the federal budget issues, our community grantee did not cut Ithaca City School District, partly because we do such a good job at implementing the model. So we did not receive any cuts from that aspect.
Anything else for our quick update on
It's exciting. So just briefly about Elementary World Language, that is the other innovation grant that I am that I'm heading up, and there's my esteemed colleague Jason Trummel reading to some of the little people. Just a 10-second update on that. We do have a committee. We've met twice. It's a committee comprised of parents, teachers, and some community members. There is great interest in world languages taught at the elementary level. Our goal is to come to the board in early December with some more concrete ideas about a pilot. But as you all can well imagine, there's very high community interest in doing more at the elementary level in terms of world language. So we're looking at different models, whether it's after school, technology, staff-based, or mix of the three. So we'll come back to the board with some more concrete ideas on that. Lily and Lydia have done some just incredible foundational work with elementary curriculum this past month, and they were going to update you on that.
Yeah. So we've done pre-K through 5, multiple days of curriculum development, really working from some learning targets where we were asking teachers to have a goal that they could describe the major learnings at their grade level, and then also that they could collaboratively sketch a meaningful, connected, standards-based year for their grade level. And so that connected piece really speaks to what Randy was talking about, the integrated curriculum. And we did have a lot of Bell Sherman teachers there who not only shared their thinking, expanded their thinking with grade level curriculum teams, and really worked and grappled and developed a sketch. And this is ongoing work that we're working on, with other groups and in increased numbers of people at each grade level to really create an integrated curriculum at each grade level that has guiding questions, that has integrated work throughout the year. I'm going to read you two of the guiding questions that people came up with, grade level groups came up with, and then they had a lot of work underneath that. But I'm just going to give you those guiding questions because we think they're pretty transformative. 4th grade came up with, this is a year-long overview. People and the environment, what's my role? Identifying problems and solutions that shape New York. So that's a 4th grade year. And then you can imagine all the strands underneath that integrate social studies and science and math and ELA. Then in 5th grade, theirs was, how can we find and use evidence to understand the world and become agents of change today and in the future? That was really exciting to hear our 5th graders that would be a focus for the year, and that, like really moving them forward as they go out into the middle school. So these are sketches. We're going to work on them with other members of the grade level teams throughout the year. Teachers grappled throughout the days with this. We didn't give templates. We talked about how the brain makes decisions, and we asked them to grapple with how you best make decisions. And it was hard work. And coming out of it, the comments at the end of the last day, we did a sort of talk around of what they came out of it. The word's transformational, the toughest 3 days I ever had, the best growth I've ever had. Thanks for the freedom to do what we really need to do for students. And that's how we, ended those 3 days, but started this work that we're going to really build throughout the year. So that was a very exciting set of days. Do you want to talk about the curriculum with 3-3?
Sure, I just wanted to add a tiny bit that this work is going to continue, like Liddy said, throughout the year. We want to, of course, involve more teachers. Sometimes we had anywhere from 4 to 7 teachers per grade level working on this. We want to involve them also in this process, and we anticipate that eventually this year-long sketch will be more fleshed out, and it will be digital, and editable, and it will be part of our continuous curriculum improvement process. So that part is exciting.
Yeah, and with resources and all those pieces to support the teachers so they can support students. Yeah. So the next part, we also did 3rd through 8th grade curriculum work with the people from Expeditionary Learning, looking at the ELA module implementation for this coming up year. I know some of you visited at least one classroom last spring to see a module in action. To build on that, we had over 100 teachers with us for 4 days, and then we worked with principals on the fifth day to just look at what the modules mean and what implementation means. As a result of those days, we have asked all teachers to try one module, implement it with fidelity. We did an online request form just at the end of those 4 days. It wasn't required. If you're interested right away and you know at the end of these 4 days you want to work on it. That was last week, and as of today we had 25 teachers requesting 48 modules. So they're not requesting one module, which is what we asked for. They're asking for more than one. And this is on top of the people that already started them last year, and we already gave them their supplies for that. So we have had huge interest, a lot of great critical thinking in those days where people, really lived the modules, thought about what it would mean for students, put on the student's hat and tried the module, and what would that mean when the kids were in it, and how would that look, and that really built on those overarching curriculum days that we did. It got into some more of the meat of the curriculum. So those were really powerful days. Maybe to add on to that.
Are we going to get a list of the modules now that they're supposedly complete?
Yes, I can easily. I will give that to someone to put in a Dropbox. Yeah, okay. They have a one-pager that describes them, and they also have a little bit longer piece that talks about the major learning targets as well. Yeah, so we can give that to you.
So go right to Danielle if you could.
Okay. We could also put an example of a lesson or a smaller chunk if you'd like to see some of the incredible work that students do in the modules. You can get a taste of it.
That'd be great.
Yeah. And so, coming up this year, we have 3 release days coming up in the elementary year. We're having fewer than last year, but in part because we think it's more streamlined. We are really going to be focusing horizontally across within grade levels, looking at student work and how does the curriculum work tie into that, and how do the modules, what are the kids doing with the modules, and sharing that across the district, like with all the 2nd grade teachers, looking at student work. And then also vertically and horizontally building that curriculum sketch and fleshing that out with having more participants in that conversation to make that a big piece. Then we just finished up today 2 really exciting days that I really felt sort of tied this all together with John Antonetti, and we were looking at PLCs and how PLCs work, and then how do PLCs look at student work, how do PLCs make decisions of where they focus so that they can meet the needs of students. And one of the key things I got out of that, anything you do in a PLC should affect what happens on a student's desk. So, what you're doing in the PLC needs to be about what the kids are doing. And that's a big overview of the days. We had a lot of great conversations there. And so that is going to affect PLC work throughout the year, which is going to help, people be focused on student learning and their needs.
Pretty good.
That was our month.
Brett?
So
busy month.
3 elementary release days. So will there be other opportunities for grade level teams to meet? I mean, I know we've got additional time in the contract this year. Will they be meeting grade level on some of those
At the end of the Expeditionary Learning training, there were several 4th grade teachers from different schools who were saying 3 days isn't enough. And we started talking about, with the 90-minute Wednesdays, about having some of that time not always be school-based, but have all the 4th grade teachers get together, and there was great interest in that. And so there's a lot of coordinating with that, but they did a nice job capturing it. But the momentum of not having 8 individual schools, but 4th grade teachers thinking the same, using the same things is increasing dramatically. And so it's been really great to see that happen.
Anything else? Any other
Is
questions?
it 90
Go ahead.
minutes every Wednesday? Is that what it is?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Any other questions? Do you have anything else for us?
No, that's all.
For your
I'll come back with it.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And on to Bob. Can you, a little stiff over there, but we're ready for Bob. Thank you. Karen.
I promise my update will be really short because you recall I'll be here again in late October to do a much more comprehensive review of the hiring that we've done this year, the processes that we use to hire. We're about 3 years ago, I was before you and said, give us the chance to focus for 3 to 5 years on hiring excellent educators, and you'll begin to see significant improvements in the district. And I think some of the good things we've seen this year in terms of the data are reflective of the real high-level educators that we have been able to recruit and retain for this district. And it's not really about me as much as it is about the hardworking people and volunteers who sit on the committees and do some really heavy lifting there. And I would like to thank my staff, 2 of whom are still working at this late hour, trying to get the final hires of the year done. As you know, we've reduced 1 staff position in HR through the budget process, and they've really the remaining staff have risen to the top and really showed great resolve to get things done. So thank you to them, and publicly want to thank them. We're in good shape, quite frankly. About 5 years ago, the major complaint was the bulk of the hiring seemed to be done in late July and into late August. We have not repeated that pattern. Last year, we really broke through that pattern through the processes that we used, and the bulk of the hiring was done by mid-July. And I think that's safe to say that it looks like that's going to happen again, or has happened. We have been surprised by a few last-minute resignations, so we're,
There's another one.
My son calling me. I'll be home in a minute.
We have no sign here that say, please silence your cell phones.
He's probably watching, so
Yeah.
I'll fix him. So yeah, the bulk of the hiring was done early again, which really takes a lot of stress off people, and we'll continue to do that again, I'm sure, next year. In terms of the numbers, they also look really good. 79 new ITA members will be joining us September. And that does not include, obviously, administrators that we've hired. I'll have a more comprehensive number for you in October of support staff that we've hired, grounds crew, custodians, the whole 9 yards. But this 79 really reflects who will be with children on opening day in just a few days. So 79 hires, and I will mention that 14 of those hires are from underrepresented groups, so that's about almost 18%, which, if I recall, is about a 4% up-click from last year. So we continue to do that good work, I think. That's it, just a couple minute update.
And obviously more detailed information in October.
More detailed, more, again, really drill down the data as to where people are. And I'd like to show the board this year, I think you asked last year in terms of experience level. So the people we hired, where do they fall in terms of 2 to 3 years experience versus 5 to 7?
That'd be good.
So we'll really hopefully drill down the data much more.
Anything for Bob? Chris?
Changing the way we approach this, did this give you an opportunity to attract better applicants, in your opinion?
I think over the last few years we have attracted better applicants, and I think it's a direct result of paying attention to what we are seeking in applicants, and of course the processes that we put into place. The training sessions, in order to be on the screening and interview committees, you have to go through a training opportunity, as I'm calling it. And we developed a rubric which really forces, I think, people not to just go on their gut instinct, but really focus on what we're looking for in terms of teaching and learning. And it follows our APPR framework to a great extent. So we're in sync with what administrators are doing in the buildings and teachers in the classroom.
I've had the complete and utter joy of working with Bob on the HR committee, God knows how long.
At least a year.
A while.
Yeah.
I remember when you made a pitch to us to actually get you some help and have another professional added to the budget line. So glad we're now talking about some of the results. I cannot wait to see us continue to move forward and continue to professionalize one of the most important parts of this outfit. Just want to give a special thanks to Dr. James, who accepted the role and has served in it for 2 years now. 2 years. And before she got on board, I couldn't answer the public's simple question about how many students exist in the current educational programs that are right in our own backyard. It's just not something we had the bandwidth to examine. So from small issues like that helped us be better public representatives to the data and the evidence you're talking about, I just want to thank you guys, and I can't wait to see how we move forward.
Anyone else? You good? Yeah. Thanks, Bob. We'll let you go back and get ready for the start of school.
Thanks.
And we do have a few policies to get through, and I'm looking at Pat to lead us to the end.
Okay. We have second readings of 3 policies that should be in your Dropbox. These are, the first is 2260, advisory councils and committees. Did I move this forward? I move this for adoption. Is that right?
Sure, go ahead.
I move for adoption.
Second by Judy.
Second.
And now feel free to speak if there's any edits, any changes.
Where is it?
If you go into...
That's probably the basic question that
today's agenda,
we need to get
go to policies, click that.
If you go into all the documents for today's meeting,
I'm seeing it.
There's a folder that says policies, and the individual policies will come up.
Okay. I found it on my machine, Dr. Brown. Is that
it's under
new?
2713.
Okay.
That's not having a problem with that new non-Apple equipment, are you, Dr. Brown?
It doesn't fit my fingers.
Yeah. All right, Pat, we found it.
Okay. Advisory councils and committees. I was not here for the first reading, so I have a minimal understanding of what the discussion was, or whether I assume it was changed. I assume it was not changed, and that's why it's here.
Oh, it was changed, and Dr. Brown came in and helped us do it.
The backstory. Go ahead, Judy.
Yeah.
What do we got?
When we had the meeting, then the first reading, then the second reading, the second policy committee meeting on this. And we need to be very specific. That's why it's very specific. That any and all committees, appointments to the advisory councils and the committees made by the superintendent or his or her shall be on the basis of interest, experience, expertise, and concern. No one shall be appointed as a representative of a specific group unless it is the express purpose of the board. Each council or committee shall be appointed and discharged by official board resolution. So they will be an advisory council or committee of the board. And Dr. Brown has advisory councils of his own, the young...
Students and budget.
Yeah.
Budget advisory council.
Yeah. In the superintendent student advisory council.
Yeah.
And this policy governs those
yes.
councils as well.
Yeah.
Correct. And any other committee that is created by the board or by the district and the board.
Has to be okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Got that, Eldred?
Clear from the policy committee, and Pat, you're clear, Pat's clear, Sean's clear, I'm sure.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Questions, comments?
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? That's everyone. So on to the next.
That's policy 2270, school attorney. I move.
And second. We left in 1 through 7, although we don't need it, for new board members so that they would understand what the school attorney does. It's more of a learning bullets than it is, hopefully we know what the school attorney does, but a new board member would not.
Again, a local policy.
Yes.
All right. Any questions? We're good? Okay, Judy says yes. She was at the policy committee, so all in favor? That's everyone. Very good.
Judy, you are doing great with the policy stuff. Sean has just lost his job.
Hey, we're just rocking through these. Go.
Okay, and we have policy 5300.70, athletic caregiver code of conduct.
Yes.
And
R is behind it.
And yeah, that R is, do we do those together? The regulations going with the code of conduct? So I'll move the policy 5300.70 and 5300.70R, P and R.
It doesn't say, the R doesn't have athletic in front of it.
It doesn't.
Caregiver.
Oh, we need to.
But we asked to have
Yes,
athletic
athletic.
put in front of it to be consistent.
Yep.
When you all went this afternoon to the meeting, did Danielle Roach this?
Not specifically that I recall.
Because there is place for the.
In order to get to our meeting, we had to leave before they were done. Sorry.
Okay.
We were being motivated, but then had to leave from the motivational speaker. I thought he was going to finish, but then he didn't. So, you know, there was one more story, and it's all right. I'm sorry, I gotta go.
Okay.
I didn't want to appear rude.
We're motivated to go.
Okay, Danielle was surprised that we did not have this. She needed it during the seasons last year. When people or parents or caregivers get a little over and sort of come down on the edge either of the field or the court to help their children or to yell at the ref or in other ways that the athletic staff feels is detrimental to the child playing. And that's why we put the will, because we made it positive. And what will happen is the R if it's first, second, and third offense. So this gives her or her staff something to...
Procedure. I was looking for the will. I found the will.
Yes, will.
Will take the appropriate steps. This is will.
So we're going to put athletic in front of that.
Yes.
Are we voting on R?
Yes.
We're voting on both, unless you want to separate them.
Right now. Oh.
She moved them together.
Both together.
Just move them together, but do we need to have a motion to add athletic to make it? And edit?
Pat accepting that.
I accept that friendly
second.
So do I.
Okay, just to be clear. Anything else? You've seen it, you've read it, we've all read it, okay. All in favor? That's everyone.
Sean can get better now.
Oh, they couldn't bring Pat back for this.
Well,
I'll come back for more policies.
yeah, it's a question of whether I should have just had Judy do it. I guess that's
No, well, unfortunately for us, Pat wasn't at the last policy committee. But Seth was.
Wow.
I don't remember.
Wow.
Yeah, you're the one that said we had to put it in the positive.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We should not be surprised that Seth was at a policy meeting, committee meeting.
Well, he thought it was curriculum.
What was the committee that met at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon?
That was HR.
Wow. In the
I was
summer.
there too.
We had to get
They're trying to get it done.
get it done.
Well,
Is that your normal?
No, we had to reschedule.
Oh, okay.
So that was, but we needed to get it done prior to this meeting.
Exactly.
Okay.
There are deadlines, and we have a deadline to continue and get done tonight.
We won't be outdone by policy. It's not.
No.
I'll move supplemental Roman 2 of the personnel recommendations dated today.
Second.
That is second by Judy as it is before you, I believe. And I think we can just go ahead and vote if we could. All in favor? That is Judy, Rob, Brad, Eldred, Jay, and Pat. Those against would be Seth. And are against?
Yes.
And Chris. And that motion carries. Supplemental personnel is approved. And we do have another item that was added, the TCAT agreement, which I think Amanda and others will probably fill us in on. And actually, this is a project that has been in the works for a long time, or a subject of conversation during budget season, the old budget season, figuring out how can we save on transportation costs. I think that discussion has changed a little bit. How can we serve students better, perhaps?
That's correct.
And Amanda, if you want to just give us an update.
Or I can, if you prefer.
I'm happy to do that, or if you want to do that, Brad?
I don't know, because you weren't at the meeting with the TCAT folks 2 months ago, and Dr. Brown, you and I were, and you were as well, as I recall.
I was there too.
And it sets at all meetings.
It's around.
Because they fix everyone's curriculum.
Been pursuing for a number of years whether there was some sort of partnership with TCAT that we could get for our students for transportation, in particular thinking after school transportation. We had a meeting, it was late May, Dr. Brown, late May. And they came back to us with a proposal about a week, 10 days ago. So we've had a lot of time to play with it, but they came back with a proposal. In essence, we can give whatever group of students we would like. We could give them an RFID on their school ID card, and it can be a bus pass. They have the data system at TCAT to track it, what route they ride, where they go, when, so forth, and they're offering us a 75-cent a ride billing for it. Similar to what they do for the college and for Cornell, apparently. So a similar sort of thing. I mean, what it really boils down to is that when we talked to them 5 years ago, they didn't really have the technology to do this way, so you would have been buying full passes. Amanda has some experience with that, where you bought full passes and actually was unable to use them effectively. Here, you'd be buying them and they'd be able to use them as they need/desire. And what we need to talk about is whether this is something we want to move ahead with, right away. Who do we want to give the passes to? What hours do we want them to be available for it? And do we want to allow parents to say, no, I don't want my child to have a pass to ride on the bus? Amanda calls that a passive permission process. I like that. So those are kind of the questions before us tonight. And for some of you, this is a relatively new topic, and there were a number of us who were at the meeting before, but the idea would be, in my mind, as many students as possible have the ability to stay here, stay at LICS, meet with a teacher, go to a club, go to a music practice, go to a sports practice, and take the city bus home. And the TCAT was unwilling to make any changes to their routes to accommodate us, so it won't be running on Cuba Street, it'll be on Lake Street.
Yeah.
But we have a stop out here on Lake Street, which from the high school is convenient, and they come downhill past LCS.
Okay, what about for DeWitt?
Well, there's a question. Do you want to talk about middle school students or not?
Okay.
We were focused at first on high school, but Sean brought up an interesting question last night. Do we want to include 8th graders? You know, or do we want to include 8th graders in it?
Who play JV?
Well, they play modified, and JV. Do we want to include 8th graders in it? So those are kind of the questions before us. From a cost standpoint, you'll be spending fund balance, whatever we do this year. I mean, and the quick, you can see there's some setup costs, although they're not very well defined, $1,000 to $4,000 for one item and $500 to $2,500 for another item. So yeah, it's not terribly well defined by TCAT as to what the cost would be. If 10% of our high school age students rode the bus each of 180 school days once, they went home or they went to the library, the public library, or they went, you know, we're talking about $24,000, give or take. And that would be assuming 10% of students were to do it every day. I don't know whether we'd have that kind of use, you know, penetration use or not.
That'd be huge. That would be huge.
I would think it'd be huge.
Right.
But
so you're using the.
I'm using kind of the high number on that. What TCAT has offered, they'll bring a school, or not school, bring a TCAT bus, park it out here on the sidewalk. Kids can see it. They can swipe their card, see how their ID can activate the system. You know, that sort of thing. They do it up at LACS. So, you know, so they can see it. It does actually work. Their card does actually
do it.
make it function.
I think this would be great for the people that live south side.
Well,
you know,
I think
it's a real walk.
It's a real walk. South Hill, West Hill.
Yeah.
I think it's quite a benefit. You know, Northeast, you know, further out, it's a hike from here. And if you're at LACS, it's a hike to go to the Northeast, you know, something like that. So the bus would be handy for that. And then what we talked about last night at Finance is, then the next discussion is, what are we, the district, going to do for transportation for children in Caroline, Danby, and Enfield? You know, are we then going to be in a position to run a 4 o'clock, a 5 o'clock, and a 6 o'clock bus to each of those 3 townships or something like that? You know, what would it look like?
How come they didn't pitch that?
Right, to Jay's point, for those of us who can't see the map, I envisioned this going beyond Zone 1. Amanda's Zone 1 looks to be a more town of Ithaca-centric. I'm looking at my West Hill guy, so Sheffield Road is a long, long way from Enfield School. I mean, that's right. And so the vision was to, okay, you could be at the public library, you know, really just right next to the, and go there for after school, whatever, study, work on research papers, or perhaps meet a tutor or whatever, and hop on a bus and make it out to Slaterville or Enfield. But that's not possible with this.
Well, we could go back to them. The answer is yes, but they don't run as many routes.
Yeah, I mean,
They don't run as many routes. You'd be talking about greater walking distances. And I will say the zone they've offered includes all of the school district that's in the town of Dryden and all of the school district that's in the town of the village of Lansing. Those are all within this. If you blow it up, you can.
Okay. I got it.
You can see that it covers.
So it's West Hill and Danby that don't get it.
Right, our district is
Enfield, Caroline, and Danby.
Right. That's right.
You know, so that was why at Finance we discussed whether we would then, you know, consider taking that up ourselves with the yellow bus in our own folks.
Facilitate the after-school transportation.
Well, we do run an after-school bus.
Right, but
it's too early.
It's too early, and it's you know, you gotta run more than one if you're gonna actually get home at a reasonable hour. I mean, that's, the thought would be if we're not covering the city, the town, the village of Lansing, parts of Dryden, if we're not having to cover that,
then we can cover the others.
Yeah, it's kind of a swap arrangement that way. So we could actually provide better service to the outlying area than we are now.
And Amanda, you know, we've heard it already tonight. Jim Ellis basically been bent over backwards to try to come up with.
Jim Ellis is terrific. He will work with us, and again, one of the big points of this proposal was that we did not step on any internal toes in terms of the transportation. This would be above and beyond what we offer, or that it would be able to reroute where we're going to be able to reach this zone 2. The proposal that they gave us was really based on the fees for zone 1 and service to zone 1, which is the 75 cents per ride. That would be the only fee that would change if we expanded this to zone 2. But again, the feasibility of that in terms of the routes that are offered, they can't expand routes for us. If they were, then it would be considered to be a charter, and that is against their practice, so that they are unable to do that. So we would have to work within the existing routes. And as you know, when you get to the outlying areas, it's a time constraint and also a location restraint.
Yeah.
Eldred thinking. Seth, go ahead.
Oh, well, the only thing I'd say about this is that we have various issues to work out as far as the details. It seems like we have a good plan in place, the structure of it. I just encourage us to seize the momentum and make this happen. You know, we talk, I've been on the board 9 years or so now, and coming from New York City where this was a common practice where you actually use transportation, public transportation to get to school, it was always why couldn't this happen, and now we've jumped over that hurdle of why it couldn't happen, and it actually could happen. So the cool thing about this is keeping the momentum going and making it happen, and then having the data to adjust our service that we provide, and we might find out that, you know, it's really used at this particular time, this route, and we can adjust the cost, but it doesn't sound like we're, the numbers Brad described is not, you know, way over the top in terms of a risk of money, taxpayers' money. So I urge us not to think about it too much. I urge us actually to do it and examine it and see what happens, because this is critical to a kid who's, you know, wants to go up to the Cornell Library, check something out, get back down here, head home. I mean, that type of learning and opportunity that we have in our community is important, and the more we can do to make that happen, the better.
And this expands our capacity to be able to meet the needs of the kids. What it doesn't do is building the will to use this tool. And so that's going to be where our focus has to be. I think, as you see here, these are all very reasonable estimates in terms of the pricing of things. But, you know, what we can do with that 75 cents per ride, if we're finding that young people we're building their will to use it, and then we actually could decrease costs, because there are different options for us once we track this. This is cost effective to us as long as they don't do more than 40 rides. Once they reach the 40 ride, that sort of takes it into then the better to get them a youth pass, which is separated in the fall into the spring, and then you're getting into a per student fee, which is about $30 per student. So again, with this software that we'll be able to track and utilize TCAT's staffing, not ours, but theirs, to be able to sort of give them the names of our kids with our database, interface that, then they could track and pull reports for us. We would have statistical data then to see who's using it when. We'd be able to monitor that and then change accordingly.
And just one more point, I'm not sure of the technology on this. Is it important that we do it at the start of school? Do we need to enter this information before school starts, or can we do it?
This can be at any time.
Okay.
Anytime. And as new kids come into the district, they can be added as well, and that's seamless. It's a one-time startup fee to be able to get that software sort of integrated with ours for the tracking purposes.
Are we going to limit time usage? I mean, let's say between...
We've got a union agreement with bus drivers.
That's right.
So, yeah, we'll have to limit it to after school.
This is extracurricular. This is beyond the school day.
Okay, but some kids, you know, don't get yellow bus service in the city. So they could use it to get to school and get home, but they could also use it to go up to the mall. I mean, are we going to,
We can track that.
we can track that and see
But
if
if they
it's
have a part-time
excessive?
job at the mall, do you care if they use it?
No.
Yeah.
And that's also where the
You
sort
would
of
want-
passive permission of the parents come into play.
Okay.
You know, I think the parents know their kids, the families know their kids, the caregivers know their kids, and so we want to be able to put some of the control also into the families, so then that way they can say, this is a great solution for our family, or not yet.
What about if other family members use it?
It's a student ID.
It's a student ID, and it's going to be run, it's a swipe card, so again, you know.
You mean using that student ID if
Yeah.
I took it?
And it would come up as a youth fair, so I think that would be probably in question.
Okay.
And the last thing I'll add that's a benefit to this is there's no downside to having young people learning about the benefits of using public transportation in their future lives, and hey, I can actually get someplace without driving, and if they move to a big city, and you know, so it's
Right.
It's great.
It's green.
Okay, go ahead.
I agree with everything Seth said. How's that? Part of the town.
Mark the day and time.
Yeah.
Put that in there.
Put that
see,
in.
no.
Notice I didn't thought.
It's not a disagreement. For those of us who come from New York City, I can tell you that in my pockets, from the age I was 12 to 18, there was no single more important thing than that bus pass. That was life. And you said we have to convince the kids to get on it. I suspect that won't be a problem once we realize that the availability is there and that we're serious about subsidizing.
Well, that's what I was going to talk about. It is a culture shift. It's a mentality shift. And some of us have kids who think that their parents are public transportation.
Oh no, it's a car service that you call.
Okay. Even that, but it is definitely a culture shift, and that's where I agree with Judy starting at 8th grade, because that would start the feeder to the high school, so they're already used to it. But I definitely think that it adds value.
I'd like to start it younger because the plays and stuff, at least at Boynton, you know, prohibit some kids too. But
yeah.
But I didn't grow up in New York City, but I can tell the story of what my father went through to participate, being a rural kid at the high school. I can tell that story if you'd like. But,
yes, we would.
well, my father went to Ithaca. He ran track. So, of course, it was the old Ithaca High down in the DeWitt building. So the track was here. This was
Cornell's track.
Well, this was where they practiced. So they walked down from DeWitt here for practice and ran track or play ball. Then he had to walk back to Route 96, well, Cliff Street. And so then he would hitchhike, and that was how you hitchhike, and you grab a ride in a car to the hospital. And Hates Road is at the bottom of where the hospital is. And so then he would hitchhike to Hates Road, then he would walk up the hill back up to the farm. So that's back in the day, that's how you participated. As a
And that
rural
was
kid.
all uphill, by the way.
Well, frankly, it was all uphill. But the point is that there's still
no boots.
There's still a lot of rural kids that there's a lot of barriers to participation.
Absolutely.
Because for many, it's almost that hard to take part, because there is no real other way for them to get home.
So is this the will of the group to move ahead with this? I don't think we really have a proposal tonight because we're not at a contract point, but I think.
Right, that's the question, though. You're not
we're not
asking
at a
for action.
contract. They've sent us a proposal. I mean, a couple of the things, as I said, were rather broadly defined, and we'd like to get those narrowed down a little bit, but I think if this is where we are, I think we can give direction to the superintendent, to the operations officer to move this ahead.
Right, it says we're not supposed to think about it very much, so just keep moving forward.
All right.
So I think certainly looking around and hearing comments, there's no reason to
This is
ban it.
another one of those ones where we've looked around for other small cities who are doing it, and the answer is there's nobody doing it.
So Amanda, I think certainly one of your first tasks in your new position is to make this happen, so that would be a good thing.
This is a baton I'm happy to carry. So.
Very good. Anything else, Amanda, you wanted to add on this?
Nothing
Are
else,
you
thank
good?
you.
Thanks.
Very good. Thanks. Any other business by the board? No other announcements? You can see the list of committee meetings and dates and times, and so I'll try to remember when things are happening now that we're almost in September. Go ahead.
I'd like to comment. I hope good. I've been able to go Monday morning and this morning to the PLC with Johnny Antonelli, and yes, he's as funny as he was before, and in a totally different way, but yeah, it's still there. And the woman whose head started to bleed because she was laughing so hard at his last presentation did go up to him and show him the blood that he caused.
This wasn't spontaneous. She did hit something, right?
Yes, she did. Yes. It's okay.
No, I mean she hit the chair in front. I think as well.
Yeah.
You made it sound like she just burst. Anyway,
Amanda, do we have a date yet for an audit committee meeting?
Brad changing the subject. Okay.
Brad just trying to move on.
Yeah.
No, Angela's going to set that with the auditors, I believe.
Okay, because we've got most of our meetings in September laid out here already, and we would typically have that meeting in September.
Are they done?
They are currently, I believe, in the process of getting all their reporting together, so we've...
Are they still here?
They're not here, they're packed up, and they are off into their offices.
Right, I think they finished up a few days ago, I believe.
Okay, just encourage us to get that date on the calendar as soon as we can, because as you can see, there's already, 7 meetings on the calendar for September, 7 or 8.
I do always point out it's one of the most important meetings that we have throughout the budget process is the review of the audit by our CTA firm. It really tells us where we are, what we've done, what did we actually spend money on, rather than a proposal. That's all the budget is, just proposed spending. So where did we actually spend the money? So and how do we form the budget for the next year? And so it's always good to check that out. Dr. Laurie isn't here, but I will just remind folks Thursday. There's a new hire orientation. We are all invited for lunch. Be there at 11:40 if you can make it. I did see that the board members making a presentation at 10:40. It's not me, it's Sean Eversley Bradwell, talking about the history of ICSD, et cetera. So I think that might be interesting. But so Sean is going to do his professor hat for a while, for an hour before lunch, if you can make that. But then the lunch in the band, well, this is all happening in the band room in the Performing Arts Center, I believe. So that's Thursday of this week. So I would just highlight that. And I have known of nothing else beyond that, beyond Thursday. So anything else? I'll entertain motions to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Thanks, Pat. Second by Judy, without objection.
You're just sitting there.
Yeah.